Welcome to Wake Up the Echoes, presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, and this is episode 10, but it's our first men's basketball episode of the season. We gave Marcus Freeman the week off. He'll be back next week for his 10th and final episode, but this week we're talking to the new head basketball coach, Micah Shrewsberry. We also had a chance on this episode to talk to freshman guard Marcus Burton. Notre Dame got a huge win in their debut under Micah Shrewsberry, and the freshman Marcus Burton set a new school record for freshmen in their debut by scoring 29 points. It was a great environment in Purcell Pavilion. You'll get a chance to hear from him and what made that night so special for a local guy playing in South Bend for the first time at Notre Dame. We also talked to associate head coach Kyle Getter, who spent the last few years at Virginia. He's transitioned here to be an associate head coach under Micah Shrewsberry. Great conversation with him, and he was sitting down with Marcus Burton as well during that conversation. Finally, we talked to Eric Atkins. You'll remember him from about a decade ago when he played with Notre Dame as a guard. He's really seen every part of the basketball industry at college and the professional level. He's recently moved back to take a job with the University of Notre Dame, so we had a chance to cover why he returned and what he's seen since his playing days here in South Bend. Great conversations with everyone. It was great to sit down with the new men's head basketball coach, Micah Shrewsberry, and let's get to our conversation with him. Okay, here we go. This is Wake Up the Echoes, episode 10, but it's our first men's basketball episode, and I've got Micah Shrewsberry here. Coach, welcome to your show. My first question for you is, do you listen to any other podcasts? Are you a podcast guy?
I am a podcast guy.
Okay.
I'm also a basketball coach, so all of my podcasts are probably the same. But I do listen to some podcasts.
What are the Hoops podcasts you listen to then? We can give them a plug.
I'm a big fan of The Old Man and the Three.
JJ Redick.
JJ Redick is
my favorite all-time basketball player.
Yeah, that's the one I listen to the most because he has really good guests on it. You know, they're talking strategy, they're talking basketball, but he adds some fun to it as well. But I learned a lot from that one.
So you want to listen to someone talk about like single, double, floppy horns, how we're getting into our stuff. Okay, got it. Well, we can do that throughout the year because I do want to talk some big-time X's and O's with you because I can tell you're a junkie. But let's talk just big picture now that you're here. We get to talk before each basketball game on the radio, but we have a different audience here. So let's just dial it back to you're in South Bend. You've got the Notre Dame job. You're 2 games into the year, but what has it been like to be patrolling the sidelines, be in it with this team and in front of these crowds?
Nerve-wracking. Nerve-wracking. I think for everybody that is watching, and this is, you guys can help me in this way. Anybody that's watching, you can help me in this way. When you see me on the officials, that means I'm too wound up.
Okay.
Right? And like normally, like when I'm not wound up in a ball of nerves, I'm just coaching the game and I don't even talk to the officials. I don't even notice that they're out there. But these first 2 games, like I wanted to do so well. I wanted our team to do well. I knew how good these opponents were. No matter like what the names say, like we've played 2 good teams, 2 really good coaches with 2 great game plans. And I knew it going in. So I knew how tough of a challenge it would be for our guys who are so young. So I've just been a ball of nerves for 2 games.
So I haven't watched you coach a ton before this year. So what you're telling me is you're not normally walking across midcourt to get at the officials before you go back to the huddle for a timeout? That's not every game kind of thing for you?
No, maybe occasionally. You said walking across the court. Now, I do spend the majority of the game on the court and outside of the coach's box. I hope no one that is officiating or anybody involved in the ACC officiating is listening to this. Yeah. But I spend just as much time on the court as I do on the sidelines. But I try to get my point across to the officials and then let it go.
Let's talk about the first 2 games. We are going to talk to Marcus Burton later in the show. Local guy, amazing performance in the first game. To beat any record that LaFonso Ellis has at this school is incredible. And in talking with you and Coach Getter, you talk to a freshman, sometimes they just, he says all the right things, but even he probably can't know how impactful and how impressive that performance was. He's used to dropping 30, 40, 50 in high school. From your vantage point, how incredible was that first performance from a freshman?
Yeah, it's like he downplays it just because you don't know what you don't know, right? That's that's going to be in the record books for a long time.
Yeah.
I would be, I don't know Fonz's freshman year, but the numbers for that is 20 plus years, right?
Yeah.
And even way more than that, probably 30
years.
years.
I think it's 35 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like Marcus has no idea of how special that was and how hard it was to do. But to see it and like you said, he's at the top of everybody's game plan as a freshman. But to do it against a defense that's designed to stop him was really special to see and watch. And, I talked about being a ball of nerves because I wanted to do so well. Like, think about being a hometown kid, man, and in your first game at home. He wanted to do well also, and he did.
We talked after the Western Carolina game, which was game 2 and a loss. And I remember looking at even the roster breakdown going into that game. And I thought, these are the kind of opponents that are going to just be tough for you guys because they had so many seniors, graduates, and you guys you're younger, you're all new guys. What was the thing in that game you're hoping to build off of and learn from? Because you're going to run up against some veteran teams throughout the year. Yeah,
you are. When you go back and watch, right, it's hard right in the moment, right? That's one of the best things I learned from Brad Stevens is in the moment, that first time you go back into the locker room, you haven't watched the film. So you can't really like go in there and rant and rave about what you didn't do. And then you watch it, it was like, man, we actually did do that really well, right? So you try and be as calm as you can in those moments and tell them, like, we'll learn from film and we'll watch it and we'll get better from there. We really guarded them. They scored 71 points. We fouled late and they got free throws at the end. It took, guys out of character. So Will Bryce, the preseason player of the year in the league, he went 5 for 20. Right? We sent him to the free throw line too many times, but he was 5 for 20 from the field. Jackson's their leading scorer, went 1 for 11 from the field. I thought our game plan and how we defended was really good. I thought our offense let us down, and that's where we'll get back to the drawing board. We got to play better. We got to make each other better, and we haven't been able to do that in the first 2 games. We haven't made each other better. We've had 19 assists in 2 games.
Right.
Like, we should be approaching 19-1.
As a coach, when that's your takeaway, though, that you were pretty good on the defensive end and you just have to work on some stuff on the offensive end, would you prefer it that way as opposed to the inverse, that you're not guarding but you're getting stuff easier, or does it not matter to you? You got to be good on both sides, but is there a difference in those two outcomes?
Yeah, I think we're really good at what we're emphasizing right now.
Okay.
We've emphasized the defensive end.
Sure.
It's given us a chance to win in 2 games, and now we have to be better. We have to find a way to be better offensively without letting our foot off the gas on the defensive end, right? So if we don't focus, we shift focus a little bit and we work on offense for a couple of days. Now our defense can't be terrible the next game out. Right. We have to continue guarding with that same effort and now put in a better effort on the offensive end and now put a game together where we're doing a little bit of both.
You mentioned Brad Stevens. He's, of course, a name everyone's familiar with in basketball, whether it's at the collegiate or pro ranks. What is something that you've taken from him that you've carried into your head coaching career? Like, what's the impact he had on you, and is there a certain trait? You mentioned what you do in the locker room, maybe try to focus on certain things before you've seen the film. Just what was his impact, and what do you try to carry into your career from him?
I think a lot of things, right? Like, he and I are really similar in our approaches to the game. And that, I guess that happens when you're together for a really long time, 10 years on staff. So our approaches are really similar. I think our emphasis on defense is very similar. And then our offensive philosophies, I think, are pretty similar. So how we play the game is like a direct correlation of the things that we did together. So that's where I say a lot of the similarities are. And then some things, off the court kind of things that are a little bit different. But I take a lot from him. I learn a lot from him. And he's always the first call.
Okay.
Good or bad, right? Yeah. Like, you lose a game and, that's my first call is like, he's calling me to talk about it.
Yeah.
And you don't get that much, right? Like you get billions of texts. Like when you beat somebody, when you win, nobody texts you or call you when you lose. Like it's the loneliest feeling in the world as a coach because no one talks to you. No one sends you a text, nothing.
Really?
And Brad used to always tell our players that who really is in your corner is who texts you after a loss.
Huh. That's a great one. I never thought of it that way. This is a little bit off the wall, but because we're on the topic, can you believe that Gordon Hayward's shot did not go in?
Yeah, it was about as online as could be. The play before that doesn't get talked about as much. We had an out of bounds underneath our basket. We tried to get it in to run the play, had to call a timeout. Came back to a different play, and Gordon drove it right and shot a pull-up. Now, he was a left-hand driver, and when he drove left and shot those pull-ups, they were money. But either way, he was really good. But he drove right and shot a pull-up over Zubac that I thought was good, and, we were getting a stop in the last possession. It was happening.
Yeah.
He misses it, we foul, and then he gets the half-court shot. But that shot looked like it was going in. I stood up, and the angle that I looked, I was like, wait a second, that's got a real chance of going in right here.
I can't believe it missed. I was actually rewatching it the other day because I thought you were on staff when I was getting ready for the Greg Paulus matchup, and he was gone the year before. But there's a great, the fourth angle on the video watch. It's you just looking at it, and it looks like you think it's going in. You walk out, and you can't believe it didn't go in. And I also think, and I grew up a Duke fan, so I was rooting for Duke in that game. But to me, that's one of the biggest coaching blunders. Coach K had him miss that free throw on purpose. And you got to go up by 3, right? You can't let that come down to a half-court heave, right? He's an all-time great coach, but I think that was a mistake.
Right. It's hard to question the guy that says the most wins ever.
Here I'm doing it. I have 0 wins.
Yeah. And myself here, I'm a third-year head coach, and I'm like scratching the 30s, and like this dude's got 700 something. But it's tough. Like in that moment, he probably felt like if we have to rebound it there, it's harder for us to get the ball all the way down to the other end of the court.
Yeah.
If they make it, then we at least can take it out and set something up, right?
And he coached the Christian Laettner pass, so he knows you can throw it. Yeah.
So like I think his experience of let's take our chances of them having to go full court off the dribble more than them taking it out, because everybody has a play for, it might not work.
Right, but
everybody has a play
3.6.
for that, throw it deep, catch it, make a play there. Nobody works on the miss to the full court. Luckily our guys sprung into action. Matt Howard sets a screen
play
at half court. Gordon just drives it, but it's a scramble situation that you have to try and make something special happen.
I'm excited to talk all these scenarios with you throughout the year because I can just tell you don't forget anything, and you've got it. Like you said, you've got to play for everything. You probably do have the free throw miss play somewhere in your back pocket, is my guess. I want to ask you this before we go. Away from hoops, do you have a hobby? Do you have something that is non-basketball you like to do to get away from hoops? What's the thing that comes to mind?
Not a lot. There, 4 kids, there's a lot of activities that happen. So, trying to make sure that I get to see as much as I can with them. But then outside of that, like I'm a TV watcher. Like I'll watch different reality shows. Like that's some a way for me to kind of zone out a little bit is I watch some different reality shows.
Can we list off a couple, or what are at the top of the list?
Yeah, number 1 for me is The Challenge.
Oh, now you're talking my language.
Number 1 is The Challenge, and like I'm in old school, like back when it was Real World Road Rules Challenge.
Yeah.
Like
CT, Adam.
I've been watching it since way back then.
Yeah.
So now that it's even like on CBS, and then when it's on MTV, I watch all of those.
Yeah.
I'll tape them, and then that's usually what I do before games.
You watch The Challenge before games?
I get my game sheets done before shoot around. So I have everything finished that I need to get finished. Then we go to shoot around. I do my interview, which is the best part of my day.
Yes, thank you.
My interview with you right after shoot around.
Yeah.
I grab some pregame meal, go back to the office, and I eat, and I lay on my couch, and I watch parts of an episode of The Challenge.
Will you go back, like, you watch old challenge episodes?
No. Whatever's current.
Whatever's current. Okay.
Whatever's current. I'll tape it. I don't watch it during the week because I know I'm going to watch it on game days.
This is amazing. This is great insight. I cannot believe this. This is awesome. We used to have a challenge viewing party. It kind of went away during COVID. We will now have to think about getting it back, and we will have you there leading the charge. Although I guess that could ruin your cadence before.
It would ruin my cadence. Okay. I might be a little bit behind.
Okay.
And I try to stay as current as I can. So sometimes if, I'll watch it because I don't get to watch the whole thing because I only have a short amount of time. But I'll kind of zone out for about 30 minutes and watch it. But then there's the rest of the episode left. So I'm like, do I wait until the next game or do I watch this at another point in time? So that's always like, what do I do? Well, like, wow. How do we go about this?
I'm looking forward to then touching base with you on the challenge throughout the year and then hearing about what other shows you've got. This is great. Coach, I'm looking forward to the next 9 shows with you. Looking forward to watching your team grow. Thanks for joining me for episode 10 of this show and number 1 of your show. And we'll take a quick break.
Appreciate it.
All right, this is our coldest moment of the week segment. It's presented by Yeti. So we still got the head coach, Micah Shrewsbury, here. We have Marcus Burton. Pretty cold moment in his debut, Coach. We're going to hear about it a little bit later from Coach Getter as well. But from your vantage point, first time coaching this team on the sidelines, when you see the freshman go for 29 points, just what went through your head?
It was actually a pretty funny moment because I was texting with LaFonso Ellis that morning and looking through the game notes, and I saw the freshman debuts in Notre Dame history. And I remember watching Chris Thomas. I was at home watching that on TV, but I didn't know that Fonz had the record. And I was like, Fonz, that'd be pretty cool if one of these freshmen broke your record tonight.
And he got it done.
And he got it done. He did. We got through singing the alma mater, and I turned, and that was he was the first person I looked for.
Wow.
And I made eye contact with him, and I pointed to him, and I was like, he broke your record.
Did you? And you had no idea, right, until the end?
Nah, I had no idea.
Okay.
When I went in the locker room, everybody was yelling. I'm like, what y'all yelling for? I get we won, but I was like, all right, we won. And then Coach Shoes was talking to us, and he started looking at me. I'm like, did I do something wrong? Then he told me, I was like, dang, that's pretty cool. And then I seen Fonz, and he just gave me a big old hug.
That's awesome. Coldest moment. I was talking to Coach Getter before. You averaged, what, like 30 points a game in your senior year?
Yeah, I averaged 32.
So 29 was under your average then last year. So 29 is just a walk in the park for you, right?
Yeah.
What was the most points you scored last year as a senior?
Probably 50.
50.
Yeah.
Okay, so 29 is easy. But this is different, right? So what's the biggest difference now that you've played a couple games at this level? Because 29 here is tougher than probably 29 in high school. Like, what's the toughest part about the adjustment you've had to make?
Just the players are just way much better. Like, you also got to realize, like, you're playing with a shot clock. You're playing with better defenders. You're playing with players that's been in college longer than I have. Like, I'm only 18, 19. These players are like 20 and up. Like,
you could get some 23, 24-year-olds later in the year, too.
So, like, they've been here before. Right. So, I mean, like, scoring 29 in my debut it's pretty cool because, like, that's way higher than a freshman's supposed to score in the game.
And now you know you can do it, right? Does that help?
Yeah.
Coach, what's the toughest thing about when you get a freshman on campus? I didn't even think about this because I played high school ball with no shot clock. When there's no shot clock, do you have to coach the fact that we have a 30-second timer? How does that transition work in your eyes when you try to get a freshman acclimated to it?
Yeah, there's a lot of things, right? But that's a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to play at a faster pace because you're going to be up against the clock some. So you got to get to stuff quicker.
Yeah.
Right. You got to start quicker. You're also, and we're in Indiana. Marcus played in Indiana. There's really good high school coaches here. But the guys at the college level are really good. And, he's at the top of the scouting report even as a freshman. So the game plans that he's going to see, the focus that he's going to see is going to be a lot different at the college level.
Yeah.
Right. And that's an adjustment as well. And it's different from night to night.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of adjust on the fly. And, it's been good for him so far, but it's going to continue to be a challenge, but I know he's up for it.
Do you think there should be a shot clock in high school basketball, or are you okay with no shot clock?
I would like to see it.
Yeah.
It helps. I think it helps those kids transition to college, right? There's so many guys that want to go on and play college, and have the ability to play in college at all levels, right? Like I've coached at the Division III and played Division III. NAIA, I've coached that. Like Division II, I've coached that. Division I, there's shot clocks at all levels. So you have to learn to play with it. And if they did it at the high school level, then I think it helps them adjust a little bit.
Yeah. What do you think, Marcus? Would you have preferred to have a shot clock?
Yeah, especially down here in Indiana, because you got a lot of teams that just pass the ball and just hold it.
They try to win the game in the 30s, right?
Yeah. And, I mean, that's just how it is down here, though. But I feel like if it was a shot clock in Indiana, it would be much better.
So you put up 50 without a shot clock.
Yeah.
And the quarters are what? The quarters are
8 minutes. 8 minutes, yeah.
What was the final score in that 50-point game?
We had like 80, and the other team had like 40 something.
So how do you get 80 points in a 32-minute game, Coach? I mean, that is wild.
It's pretty wild. I don't know who he played to get to that.
Keep him anonymous.
I'm going to tell you one thing. If he was playing against me, he wouldn't get that many possessions, right? I'd be holding the ball just like everybody else would, right? You play with the rules there,
yeah.
Right? There's no shot clock. I'm not going to allow him to just be free and get a bunch of shots up. I'm going to hold the ball too. Sorry.
Marcus, I want to ask you about the freshman class because it's been fun to watch, and we'll talk about it later, Coach, or we'll talk about it earlier when you hear it in the show. A lot of freshmen are getting a chance to play. What's it been like to come in with this group? How have you guys gelled here in your first few months on campus?
Man, I love those guys. Like me, Logan, and Braden. We've been knowing each other for a little while because we all played Indiana Elite together. And Carrie's gonna be Carrie. Like Carrie's a funny guy, and like everybody loves Carrie. And it's just like when we playing together, we all click because this is all what we talk about. Like when we were here in the summer, we were always in the gym together. We was always shooting together. So I feel like it's gonna be real special once we get it going a little bit more. But
yeah.
It's been real fun to play with these guys.
I know it was in a loss the other day, but he had a pretty good performance in that second game against Western Carolina. Did you know Carrie was capable of what he did in game 2?
Nah, I know Carrie. Carrie's like you'll look at Carrie, you'd be like, what is out here doing? And then Carrie, he might dunk on you because he's just like, you never know. But like Carrie's a really good player, and like I think it showed a lot of people in the Western Carolina game because he was like, that's who he is. That's who he is at practice. He makes big time shots, and he did in the Western Carolina, and it showed.
You ever see his dad play? You ever seen footage?
Nah, I've never seen his dad play.
So I grew up in Seattle. Calvin Booth, I mean, he was in the middle. He was making things happen. You saw his dad play, right? He was a good player, wasn't he?
He was a good player, and Carrie is completely different than his dad. Right? His dad was a true center.
Well, yeah.
Back to the basket, scored around the post, was like a shot blocker at the rim, where Carrie's more of a perimeter guy. He's a perimeter threat. I think the other night he was making threes, but he was attacking closeouts, driving to the basket. He's a good passer. So, like, his skills are so much different than his dad. But his dad was a good player. You don't play in the NBA for as long as he did without being a really good player.
I wanted to ask you about this area, Coach. You have a guy next to you that played locally. We were talking earlier about Blake, who played here, Demetrius Jackson. And I got the sense in the gym in the opener, and really both games, but I definitely felt it in the opener, like there was just an extra buzz because Marcus is here, a local guy playing for his team, and you've been in the area before. You grew up in the States. So, like, what does it mean to have someone like Marcus on campus being such an important piece of this team this season?
I think for us it's big because, and he may not recognize it. He may recognize it, but it gives young kids a chance to kind of dream, right? Like the kids that are in South Bend and Mishawaka, and they see Marcus and what he's doing, and they say, man, I can do this at home as well, right? I got to do everything possible to become as good of a player as he is, to become as good of a person, student, everything else that's needed to get here to Notre Dame. But it allows young kids to dream and do it and see it. Now they've seen him. They've seen JR. They've seen Demetrius, Blake. Like, staying home is pretty cool. Yeah. And you get a chance to do it at a big-time place, right in front of your family and friends.
You said, Marcus, that it was Demetrius for you, watching him grow up. What's it like now to be starting to begin the other side of that, where you're going to have kids watching you that come to the game? I assume you maybe even saw some of them the last couple of days. Like, what's that been like to be on the other side of that coin?
I think it's real cool. But I mean, if I was to see somebody, I would probably tell them just be yourself and just have fun and work. Because if I did it, then they probably could do it too.
Yeah. I ask Coach Freeman this whenever we have him on with the football show, and it's just about the player to his left and what excites him about their future at Notre Dame. And usually it's actually an older guy who's getting ready to maybe go off to play professionally or start his career after football. You got a guy here that's in his first season, only 2 games in, but what excites you about Marcus's future at Notre Dame?
I think for me, the first thing like that I think about is just the passion that he brings to the game. And then the level of work from there. Like he talked about, the 4 freshmen that we have and how much they're in the gym working. And they're pushing each other to all be really good. And what that's doing is it's setting the foundation for this program and what it's going to be, right? So these 4 guys are doing it, and not because coaches are telling them to. It's because they want to be really good players. Yeah. And Marcus is a leader in that way. He wants to be a really good player. But then, as the freshman class or the guys that we just signed come in next year as freshmen, they see these guys in the gym working like that, and they think that's what we're supposed to do. Right? Now the culture's already been laid. The foundation's already been laid. And then we just build off of that from there. So having the chance that, I know being around it, our system is sometimes a little trickier to pick up and get, right? But I've seen huge jumps from year 1 to year 2. But I've never seen what year 3 looks like. And I can't wait for that, right? I'm looking forward for tomorrow. But, from year 1 to year 2, where these guys are going to be, it's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
And then from year 2 to year 3, year 3 to year 4, it's going to be fun, man. Sit back and watch. At some point in time, these guys are going to be able to run practice for me. I tell them all the time, I want to sit back at the game and get a popcorn and a Dr. Pepper and just watch them work. And hopefully that'll happen soon.
How difficult are the practices under Coach Shrewsbury?
I'm not gonna lie. The first time I was here, I was contemplating life. I called my mom after, and I was like, "Yo, I don't know if I could do this for real."
You called your mom?
Yeah, I did actually. And then I was like, she told me, she was like, "You here now? You gotta stay." I was like, "All right."
Thanks, Mom.
What makes them so hard?
It's just you just gotta be on your game. Don't mess nothing up though.
Okay.
Don't mess nothing
Good
up.
to know. If I ever have to suit him up at a practice of his.
Very, very detailed
Okay.
in what we do. And, detail and discipline.
All right.
It's what it takes to be good.
All right.
The Coach Painter, he always used to talk about this and say it. The more discipline you have, the more fun you have.
Okay.
Right? The
That's
more
a good
disciplined we are, the more fun we're going to be able to have. But we got to get there first.
All right. We'll take a break. We'll get Coach out of here. We'll bring Coach Getter in.
Thank you.
All right. We're joined by Marcus Burton, Kyle Getter. This is our first basketball show. Let's start with what we were just talking about. I always ask these guys when they come on the show about dining halls. So we'll start with an icebreaker about dining halls. Marcus, you said you're a North guy, right?
Yeah.
Why do you like North?
I wouldn't say I like North. I've been to South too, but the food is pretty much the same, honestly. So
But the layout at North is better, isn't it?
Yeah, the layout at North is way better, but South is it's kind of closer to me too. So
So you're trying to have it both ways.
Yeah, I split it both ways.
Okay, Coach, you said you like North more or South?
I would lean more towards North. Although waiting on that invite from Marcus. He hasn't invited me to lunch. Been knowing this dude for the whole fall semester.
What are you
Don't know what's
doing?
going
Why
on.
haven't you invited the guy yet?
I don't know yet. I don't usually, when I usually go to lunch, I don't usually go to the dining hall. It's kind of just if I want cereal or something, I go.
Oh, so you're a breakfast dining hall guy.
Yeah, breakfast.
Okay. I think you got to get 29 points in your debut to go to lunch with Marcus. That's what it is. You ever have 29 in a game?
No,
Never-
maybe in a season, not a game. So
Let's go to the 29-point game, Marcus. We'll start with you there. What was that like? First time playing Notre Dame. I know it's been a long time coming to come out here to play the way you did. How did it feel?
It was great. It was real good atmosphere. When I was playing, I really wasn't thinking about anything. I was just kind of having fun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm worrying about just winning. And when they came up, they told me in the locker room, I was like, oh, I didn't even know. I was out there just scoring buckets and just having fun with my teammates.
Did you know LaFonso prior to this? Have you met him before?
Yeah, I knew Fonz prior to this because we had similar conversations about just coming to Notre Dame, playing, and what he expects or what he sees I can do at Notre Dame. So I mean, I've been knowing him for a little minute now.
Yeah. When you saw him after the game, did it put it in perspective to what you'd accomplished in that first game?
Yeah, they did. When I was in the locker room, they kind of like Coach Shoes kind of broke it down to me and told me I was like, oh, I didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And like when Fonz told me he was real proud of me. He's happy.
Coach, I hear him talking about it. I get the sense like the older guys that have been through it, coaches can sense how impressive 29 points in your debut is. From your standpoint, what did he do so well in that game? What stood out to you?
Well, I just think he's a natural scorer. And being with his quickness and his size and being able to get to his pull-up and score in a variety of ways, and just his aggressiveness just puts a lot of pressure on the defense. But I think he's more than a scorer.
Yeah.
He's also a great facilitator, but I think his ability to score kind of allows his teammates to get other opportunities. But I knew once a few of those baskets went in for him that there were going to be a few more. And, it was really cool just to sit back and watch. And what a awesome debut, for a local hometown guy to do it at, in his first college game. It was cool to watch.
What have you thought about the last few years, Marcus, as you made the decision to come here, like to play at Notre Dame? Why did you want to come to Notre Dame? Why did you, when there was a coaching change, decide to stay at Notre Dame? What was going through your head, and how exciting was it to get here and finally play?
Coming to Notre Dame, it was a dream come true. Like I've watched games before. I watched Demetrius Jackson when he was here before, and it was kind of like I want to go to that school, and it was also like in my hometown too. So it was kind of no brainer. But when the coaching change happened, I was kind of scared a little bit because I didn't know what to expect. Yeah. But when Coach Shrews got the job, he had to sit down with me. He told me like, this would be a good idea, good fit for you just to stay and play for me. And when he told me that, I kind of just got on board and I stayed, and it's been really good so far, and can't wait for more. You mentioned Demetrius. Did you was he your guy growing up then in the local area? Yeah, he was. I watched a lot of Demetrius Jackson games here when he was at Notre Dame. I also went to a couple of his high school games when I was younger too. Okay, I got a question for you then. We had a question get submitted last week. All-time Notre Dame starting five. So I'm gonna ask you both you guys. Doesn't have to be all-time, but guys that you followed here. Give me your 5 favorite guys, and then Coach, I'm gonna come to you after this and think about the 5 guys when you were at Virginia that were the toughest to prepare for. So give me at least 3 to start. Try to rattle off the guys you thought were the best you saw when you played here. I'm gonna have to go with my guy Blake Wesley. That's a good one. I'm gonna go Demetrius Jackson. Okay. Jeremy Grant. Yep. All good answers. And we were just talking about Mooney before. Mooney could step out a little bit. Yeah, Mooney. And Mooney. VJ Beecham, maybe? Yeah. Beecham was pretty nice. He was real good. Yeah. It was another one. Pat Connaughton. Okay. Go. NBA guy. Okay. What about you, Coach? Who were the toughest guys you guys prepared for when you were at Virginia?
Well, that's a great question. There's been a lot, but, John Mooney, you mentioned Mooney. We actually named one of the actions Mooney, the Mooney action, because they ran that little play for him, and he kind of got to his spot off the block. He was really hard to prepare for. Nate Laszewski, Dane Goodwin, Paul Atkinson was really good. And Marcus mentioned Blake. I tell you what, he was so hard to defend. We would try to kind of corral him as a ball handler in the ball screen actions, and he was elite at splitting the ball screen, making decisions, and he's probably up there maybe at the top in terms of preparing for guys. I
wanted to actually ask you about Blake and Marcus, just because they're both exciting freshmen that played locally, and I watched Blake 2 years ago, and now I see Marcus. So there's a lot of similarities on the surface, but then I watch them play, and they look totally different. They're both guys that can handle the ball and get to the rim and shoot, but it seems different to me. What are the distinctions between Blake and Marcus when you watch them play?
Well, I think they're both great teammates. I think that's that's something they definitely have in common. I think just being around Marcus in the short time here, you can see the guys. We talked about his 29-point performance. I think the guys were more excited about it than maybe he was. He was just kind of like, this ain't no big deal, because he scored so many points in high school. 29, that's probably like a 12-point game for a guy like me. But, I think their differences, it's hard to say. I think Marcus is a 3-level scorer, so is Blake. their ability to get to their pull-up. Blake was probably got to the rim more than Marcus, where Marcus maybe relies a little more on his pull-up.
Yeah.
But both, capable three-point shooters, both are really good at changing direction.
Yeah.
And they both put so much pressure on the defense. I mean, I just remember after that playing Blake Wesley here, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm glad we only played him once.
Yeah, that's right. Who have you modeled your game after growing up? Whether it's guys in the league, guys you watched, who do you try to model your game after? Is there somebody that comes to mind?
I wouldn't say like I model my game after anyone.
Okay.
I mean, I have a lot of favorite players.
Who were your guys growing up then?
Probably like Damian Lillard,
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul, young Chris Paul. And
Young Chris Paul.
Young Chris
You're
Paul.
talking New Orleans Chris Paul.
Yeah, that Chris Paul, and like maybe a little bit of AI too.
AI. So now, okay, when were you born?
I was born in 2004.
So did you even watch AI like live growing up? Like, because I was maybe like Nuggets AI when you were.
Yeah,
right?
I watched a few games when he's on Nuggets, but like
But you're talking like 2006ers.
yeah.
Okay. I mean, AI 2006ers. That's about as good as it gets for a
Oh,
guard,
no
right,
doubt.
Coach?
No doubt.
Who are your guards you watched growing up that you liked?
Oh, man. So I'm a lot older than Marcus.
Yeah, that's fine. So I'm older than Marcus too.
Yeah,
We can talk
man,
about
I
it.
tell you what, I loved Chris Mullen. I loved watching Chris Mullen.
Yeah.
He was, guy that's probably not talked about as much, but, that left-handed shooter, a guy like him. And then who doesn't like Larry Bird?
Ooh.
Especially
Sticking in the region too with that.
yes. Yeah, those are two guys that
Mm-hmm.
stuck out to me. And then we won't get into the MJ LeBron debate now, but just watching Michael Jordan. John Paxson is from my hometown, from Dayton, Ohio. So with that Notre Dame tie, watching the Bulls make that run, it was they'd have to be up there as well.
We don't have to dive into it, but you're going LeBron over MJ. Is that what I'm picking up here?
Nah.
Oh, you're MJ over LeBron.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's good. We got some young guys that got their head on their shoulders. That's good.
right.
Another thing I wanted to ask that maybe makes us feel old here. I was talking to football guys last week, and we were talking. It was Rico Flores, and it was Jadarian Price. So they're about your age, maybe a year older. And we were talking about M1 mixtape.
Yeah.
You an M1 mixtape guy, or are you too young for that?
Nah, I remember.
Okay.
I remember some of
Who's your M1 mixtape guy then?
it. I probably go Hot Sauce.
Hot Sauce.
Yeah.
Professor.
Escalade.
Escalade.
Yeah, I'm going
That is a
Escalade.
good
I'm
one.
going Escalade. Yeah, Escalade.
Do you remember when they were on the bus and it was like professors trying to make it, and it was Escalade that I think went to bat for him and gave him the jersey at the end, right? Those were like some of the best TV shows of my childhood. Were you watching those growing up?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a hoop junkie like we are, you're watching that. That's why I'm not surprised Marcus knows about that.
Oh man, Hot Sauce. That guy was pretty good. Hot Sauce. Do you have any Hot Sauce moves in your bag or no?
Nah. I just kind of keep it simple.
It's a carry, right? Every time with
Yeah,
one of those
it
guys.
is, for sure.
Let's talk a little about the season. It's only 2 games in. I'm curious just because we got a freshman here who's playing his first college season, and I'll start with you, Marcus. Just now that you're here, you've gotten a couple games under your belt. What are you looking forward to most about playing this season out with Notre Dame? You got the coaching staff in place. You got your teammates. What excites you about this year?
Just going out and competing with my teammates. Just having fun. Just winning games and seeing the enjoyment on my teammates' face when they do great things, and just living it, because this was a dream come true to me. So I mean, I'm here now, and it's just like it still doesn't feel real. I kind of just feel like I'm just out here just playing another high school game, but with bigger players and better players. But honestly, it's real fun.
That's a good one. That's a good answer. Coach, what about you? You've been around the group now. You've gotten to campus, and I know there's been a lot of change in the summer, but it feels like the group is in place and everyone's in a good spot. What are you excited for in your first trip here?
I'm excited for the growth. Being here, inheriting 4 players off last year's team, and just having so many new pieces. I'm really looking forward to watching this team grow throughout the year. And there's going to be hills and valleys and all in between. But I've been real impressed with how our young guys have just bought in. All the new guys really have bought in, and just to the process of. And I think the future's bright for us, and certainly glad that Marcus decided to stick with us.
What's the one place you're most excited to play this year, Marcus?
Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why is that?
I've never been to Miami before.
Okay. So just the weather, or just the
Yeah.
whole city?
I feel like the weather in the whole city would be just good vibe.
Okay. Where's the toughest place difference? Where are you? Well, I can give you the toughest place, but also where are you most excited to have this team get a chance to play this year?
Well, that's a great question. I can tell you, for me, it's going to be special going back to Virginia.
Figured,
I
yeah.
think that'll be a unique experience for me. Just haven't been there for 5 years, but I think these guys being able to play at Carolina, being able to play at Duke, being able to play at Virginia Tech when they're playing Enter Sandman, and that place is is shaking. It'll be all good experiences. Each place is interesting. Each place in the ACC has kind of its little unique vibe, with their venues. But these guys, it'll be a great learning experience for these guys, especially being young.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys both stopping by. All right. Very special guest this week. It's our first men's basketball show, so we went deep into the archives and got a former Notre Dame men's basketball player, Eric Atkins. Welcome to Wake Up the Echoes.
And thank you. Excited to be here.
So you're back in town. I didn't realize until recently that you were working for the university in development. Why don't you explain to those that are maybe not familiar with how the department works, just what your new role is at the university and what brought you back?
Yep. So I'm working on a athletics advancement team, and I get to work with families all across America that want to push the Notre Dame mission forward. And it's a really, really cool role, and I just started about a month ago, so excited to get going.
What brought you back? Like, you were doing a lot of different stuff in basketball, right? I mean, you were with Howard at one point. You were here at one point. Just talk me through your career and then what ultimately led you to, I guess, move from basketball into more of a Notre Dame-centric role as you came back.
Yeah. I've been coaching for the last 7 years.
Yeah.
A couple different stops. And I was with Pat Connaughton actually last year.
That's right.
With the Milwaukee Bucks G League team. So I got to I stayed with Pat a few times last year. But the opportunity to come back here was one I just couldn't pass up. They reached out to me about a position, and I jumped on it right away. It didn't take me too long. This place is special to my heart.
Let's talk a little bit about this team, because new coach, so far 1-1. I think really good in the opener, and then they learned a few things in the second game. But it's obviously a young group, and you've seen all kinds of teams. You played on all kinds of teams. Just 2 games in, what are your impressions, and what have you seen the first games under Micah Shrewsbury?
Yeah. What I've seen is a team that, and I've watched them practice a ton as well.
Okay.
A team that's going to grow a lot over this year. Very young group, but the way they play. I love their offense, the way that they get into different sets really quickly. I think Coach Shrewsbury does a great job on defense. I think they're going to be one of the better defensive teams as they grow and get to see more teams play and different things like that. Especially with this coaching staff. I think they're amazing, especially with the way that they prepare for games.
Yeah.
So I only think they're going to get better in time.
We talked to Marcus Burton earlier on this episode. He's a local guy.
Yep.
And I saw what it was like 2 years ago with Blake. And you've seen all kinds of local guys come through here, and you know what it's like around here. What do you think it means when there is someone from the area playing for Notre Dame? Because the first couple games when I was in the building, it just felt a little different. There's more people, I think, from around the area. What does it mean when someone from South Bend's not just on the team, but leading them in scoring, setting records as well?
I think it's a different excitement. Absolutely. I was here with Demetrius for his first year. I was a senior that year, and it's a different energy around the town, different energy in the building. It's just a ton of pride. I got a ton of messages from people in the community, messaging me about Marcus, and he's amazing, and it's only going to get better in time. In
your new role, how do you think, because I've talked to a lot of people that have worked in that department that were former student athletes. I think it has to give you an advantage. How does that help you? I know it's early on in your role, but does that help you with messaging and communicating just the impact someone can have when they do give to Notre Dame or try to have an impact on this university?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that being a former student athlete, I could talk to, some of the things that, we go through and the areas of need that are in need.
With the basketball team this year, it's a young team. What's the biggest challenge going to be for them then? Because we talked about you've seen them in practice, and they're going to defend. I think, obviously, in my limited time around Coach Shrewsbury, you can tell they've got a plan and they've got a system, and they seem keen on executing it. But I saw the team in Western Carolina. They're just so much older, so much more experienced. Yeah. Sometimes, especially early in the year, that's going to usually win out. So how does a young team make the strides they need to throughout the year, and what are the challenges that they're going to face you think they have to overcome over the next 4 months?
Yeah. I would say the main thing is just staying together.
Okay.
staying together through those bumps and bruises. It's going to happen. I remember my sophomore year, we were really young. We lost Tim Abramitis in that year, and the team became me at the point guard. Jaron was a freshman. I'm starting freshman basically. Pat started that year, so that was very, very young team, and luckily we started later. This team is starting off the bat with just being really young, and they're going to grow. They're going to get better. As long as they stay together and keep believing, that coaching staff is going to do a great job of putting them in the places that they need to be to eventually win some of those games.
Okay, I've got a special question we're saving for you later for our From the Irish segment, so I don't want to get into that yet, but I do want to reminisce about your time here because you talked about it a little bit. I think we did a podcast like maybe in the peak of the pandemic, like 3 years ago, where we talked about the 5 overtime games. Yeah. So there might be people listening to this that didn't catch that. First, is that the highlight memory when you think about your time here? And if not, what is the top memory of your time at Notre Dame? And then I do want to talk 5 overtime after I identify that.
Yeah, that 5 overtime game, absolutely amazing. It's not my top one.
Okay, what's your top one then?
It's not my top one. My top one would be our first Duke game here. And I think, not to brag too much, but I had 19 and 11 and a W in the first ACC
it's hard
game.
To beat that,
here, so to open up our ACC, life. So that's probably my top moment there.
Yeah, I was talking to Burton and Coach Getter, who was at Virginia, and just trying to get a sense of what they're excited about being in the ACC. He said Miami was where he's most excited to go, which I was surprised by that because it was right away he said Miami. I kind of thought he'd say Cameron or Dean Dome or even Virginia with all the success they had, but he said Miami because he wants to check out the area, see the city. So it was an interesting response. But if you get Duke at home, that's a good one. 5 overtime game. What comes to mind when you think of that night? It was a crazy night here.
First thing that comes to mind is Jaren Grant's, I don't know how many points it was, in a minute 30.
Yeah, I think it was something like 11 in the last 38 seconds or something like that. Or maybe it's 13 in the last minute like you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's crazy. There's a video online somewhere that shows them all.
It's absolutely amazing. And then the next thing I think of is him fouls out in the next, the start of the next overtime. He fouls with a minute in, and he's out of the game for the next 5 overtime. That's what people actually don't remember. He doesn't play most of those overtime. He gets us there, and he's not in the game for the rest of it. So
didn't Cooley foul out super early too, or somebody fouled out in I think regulation? Right?
Yeah. He fouled out I think in the first overtime as well. And we didn't have 2 of the main guys.
Yeah. When you think about your time here, because now you're in this different role, and you said you're at practice. Maybe you talk to some of the players at times, but as new generation of players come through, what's a piece of advice you give to a player that's either thinking about playing at Notre Dame or is going to begin their career at Notre Dame to make sure that they utilize to maximize their time as a member of the basketball team and as a member of the university?
Yeah. As a basketball player, just kind of keep getting in those reps, stay in the gym as much as possible. Utilize the weight room. I think that's so huge, especially again if we have a young team. So just kind of getting stronger, and know that it's a process. It's a process. It's all not going to happen in 1 month, 1 summer, or whatever it is. Just keep working at it, grinding at it, and being here as a student athlete, utilizing all your resources here. Yeah. It's such a special place, and there's so many different people that you can touch and talk to and learn from. And I think kind of getting that full experience is what's really important.
Last one before we take our break and come back with our From the Irish is just about what you see in this role. What excites you now that you're back at university in this different role? Again, it's been a couple months, but I've seen it have such an impact on this university, helping so many different teams, student athletes, the whole operation here. What excites you most about what you're going to get to do here going forward?
I would say I'm working in the California region.
Okay.
So super, super excited to get out there. But again, meeting and getting to know these families, and then really focusing on the areas of need that our athletic program needs. And if we can do that and make our student athletes' lives here better, that's what it's all about.
So that was the correct answer, but I heard prior to that you're excited to rack up the frequent flyer miles and get out to the sunshine when it's winter time here in South Bend.
Absolutely,
right?
Just a little bit.
All right, we'll take a break and we'll come right back. It's time for our From the Irish segment. It's presented by TireRack.com. We still have Eric Atkins here. Last week, Eric, I asked people to submit their all-time Notre Dame starting 5. So it's a little bit of an open-ended question, right? Because starting five, I mean, the game's evolved a lot in the all-time history of Notre Dame. So I want you to start thinking about your all-time starting five. And it can be a recent group, it can be an older group, whatever. But we had a couple submissions, okay? Let's start with Rick from Fairfield, Connecticut. Here's his five. And this is definitely of the older generation.
Okay.
He went with Adrian Dantley, Bill Lambier, John Shoemate, Kelly Tripucka, and Austin Carr. That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
You sign off on that, right? You don't have – that's an acceptable five. We all have our different flavors, but that's fine, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Here's a more recent one, I think.
Okay.
This is from Katie, and she's Carmel, Indiana. Marcus Burton
Already. 2 games in. Nice.
set the record
I'm
for –
sure he's going to live up to that, though. He will.
Okay,
He will.
top. We're hoping for and again, starting five. So this isn't the 5 best. This is maybe Marcus Burton fits with these other 4.
Okay.
Troy Murphy,
I like that one.
Pat Connaughton, Jaron Grant, and LaFonso Ellis. So you can see there's a generational gap here and no overlap. So we had 10 different people. I think both good submissions. I'm going to stamp an asterisk on Marcus. I don't want the pressure on him.
Yeah.
But like you said, I think he's shown that he could certainly live up to that. As you've had a chance to think about it, where does your mind go with your all-time starting 5 at Notre Dame?
Okay, so I'm going to start as this 3 position.
Oh,
Small forward. I'm going to go with Matt Carroll at the 3. I'm going to go with Bonzie Colson at the 4.
I like that.
I'm going to go with Zach August at the 5. I'll go with Chris Thomas at the 1.
Okay.
And let's go Ben Hansbrough at the 2.
Oh, the Hansbrough pick. Okay. So you went really around, your generation.
Yeah.
We did not waver at all. I didn't hear Austin Carr or LaFonso.
no.
They have a reation to be upset. But watch out, Bill Lambier might be lurking around here somewhere. I didn't hear Eric Atkins on any of those 3 teams.
No. I'm going to come off the bench and be able to pass to these guys.
Okay. Humble as well. Okay, a second from the Irish question. This one is for you specifically. It's from Jamal, who's from Jacksonville, Alabama. It's an interesting one, and it actually relates back to what we talked with Marcus Burton. He said, which college team in Florida did you enjoy playing against the most? So that could be ACC, but it could be a different team if you guys made it down there for something else.
Yeah. That's an easy answer for me, actually. It was USF.
Okay, why is that?
USF. For whatever reason, we would get there a few days early, and we would really get to just enjoy the sun, get out, and enjoy the water. It was just a beautiful trip.
Yeah.
I always loved that trip.
Okay.
And, on top of that, we would always win.
So less to do about the team and more about just getting out of the South Bend winter into Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable. I think that's why when I was talking to Marcus, he said Miami.
Yeah,
I think he's lived in South Bend, and he knows when December rolls around, it's time to get out.
Absolutely.
All right, EA, thanks for coming by. I'm really happy you're back on campus. Excited to see you around the team more and come around. You're always welcome to join us for this segment. We can debate top 5s.
Right.
We'll get coaching on the act at some point too, but appreciate you swinging by, and good luck with the new job.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
That does it for this week's episode of Wake Up the Echoes, presented by TireRack.com. Thanks again to the head coach, Micah Shrewsbury, for making his debut appearance, and looking forward to the rest of the appearances from him throughout this season. Also, thanks to Marcus Burton, the freshman guard, and associate head coach Kyle Getter, as well as Eric Atkins, for taking some time to join us this week. We'll be back next week with Marcus Freeman's final show on Wake Up the Echoes to wrap up the Wake Forest game and preview the regular season finale against Stanford the following week. Until then, Tony Simeone saying, Wake up the Echoes.